welcome to another episode of the Trans 101 series. Alright, today I'm talking to you about gatekeeping. This is the 31 video in a row that I've posted for Trans 101. I'm super excited to finish it and to talk to you about this, and this topic was actually supposed to be how to be a good ally, honestly, and I decided to change it to gatekeeping because why didn't I think about this sooner? Gatekeeping is so important, and so important for allies and people who are supporting acquaintances, family, friends, even trans people to understand what gatekeeping is and how it keeps us and prevents us from transitioning and being ourselves. So how to be a good ally, I've made a video in the past. I'll put that link in the description below. It is a video that I will explore later on in a different Trans 101 series, but for now, let's focus on this video and let's talk a little about gatekeeping. So gatekeeping in the trans community is a huge issue, all right? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is basically the people who have authority over our transitions and our bodies. So the doctors, the therapists, the surgeons, and the social workers, anyone really who, even parents can be gatekeepers, where they have power over you and your transition. So an example that I will give you, all right, when I was 18, I knew I was trans, I wanted to transition, it's been a while. I went to a program at the hospital in Montreal to transition. I had an interview with a panel of 5 or so doctors who assessed me and assessed my life and how I talked about being trans. They then came to the conclusion that because I said that I feel like I am 70% male and the rest I don't know, I am not trans enough, all right? And they told me that I will not be able to transition in this program and I won't be able to get into this program because I'm not trans enough. These are gatekeepers, all right? These are the people who tell you that you're not trans even if you tell them that you're trans and you're ready to transition. I wanted this. I wanted therapy. I wanted to talk to someone about being trans, and I wanted to eventually go on hormones. These are the people who prevented me from doing that, and it is a big problem because none of them are trans. None of them know the trans experience and know what it's like to have someone say, hey, you're not trans enough, I'm not gonna let you transition. This happens a lot in this community, and it can happen if you're in therapy, good therapist, you're having a good time, you're like, you know what? I'm ready to start hormones. Can you please give me a letter stating that I have gender dysphoria and that testosterone is the next level in my transition in order for me to get testosterone? Well, some therapists will say, no, I don't do that, or no, I don't do that because of religious or emotional or personal views, or no, I don't know enough about that to do it. Some of these surgeons actually say on their websites and tell you that they are trans-friendly. Being trans-friendly and then saying I'm not gonna give you a letter for hormones or surgery is not being trans-friendly. You're a gatekeeper, and that sucks. I believe it is also a method of gatekeeping the fact that you absolutely need a therapist letter in order to get hormones. There are programs and different places and centers in the world now, especially in America and Canada, where you go into the office, you talk to a doctor, and you talk about the risks of testosterone, the benefits of testosterone, the changes of testosterone, and you kind of talk about why you want testosterone, and then they give you a form, you sign it, and then they give you your hormones. And if you sign it, they usually give it to you. This is not gatekeeping, it's fantastic, and it's really great. The issue is that, for example, in Montreal, the wait list is 2 years to get this type of hormones without a therapist letter. Very problematic, because what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? You have to wait on this list, and this is gatekeeping, and I know that it's not anyone's fault that there's a 2-year waiting list, but really, why is there a 2-year waiting list? Why is there no additional funding from the government of Quebec to fund other doctors and other programs that would also offer this? So Quebec has a lot of gatekeeping, okay, and I live in Quebec, so that's why I'm using this as an example. In the past, you needed to have bottom surgery or a hysterectomy in order to change your gender marker. That is gatekeeping, and that is a huge problem. I actually was able to convince the government to change my gender marker to male after only having top surgery. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to do it. Thankfully, the law has changed. You no longer need any type of surgery to change your gender marker, but that form of gatekeeping isolated a lot of trans people because they were not able to either go out of the country because their papers weren't changed, or apply to jobs, or do anything because they're even go to the doctor because they rather deal with the illness that they have, and some people do decide to just deal with it and some die because they don't want to deal with the humiliation and the attitude and the discrimination that they will and might face at the hospital or clinic, because their gender marker says female or male and they don't present that way, and everything is just confusing. Now, the other issue with gatekeeping in Quebec that is happening right now is that trans migrants who come here and are either refugees or immigrate here are not able to change their name or gender marker. You have to be a citizen of or a resident of Quebec in order to do that. Every other province in Canada lets you do it except Quebec. And this is like a running joke if you're from Quebec or like even from Canada and you know this, what's going on here. All the contests that I've ever seen in my entire life, especially when I was younger, was like, oh my god, that looks so cool, I'm gonna enter. It's like la 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 la, and then the last little line of the rules, except Quebec, which literally applies to these trans rights, except Quebec. Quebec has this rule that you are not able to do that, and that is just a huge form of gatekeeping. Now, gatekeeping can also take form in little things where your parents refuse to let you transition and they're like, I'm gonna pay for your education if you don't transition. That is abusive and manipulative, and some people choose to completely disassociate themselves and go away from their parents and transition themselves, and other people have such a tie with their parents and they feel guilty that they will stay and they will get their education paid for and not transition, and that is gatekeeping. Your parents, your own blood is gatekeeping you, and that is just so problematic and so hard to deal with. Anyways, these were just examples of gatekeeping. Not the best video to end this series with, I know, kind of sad, but I think that I want to open up this discussion to talk about what can we do to not be so gate kept, because this is our life, this is not their life, right? We know what we want for our own bodies. Yeah, we should go to therapy, we should like talk about our life. It shouldn't have to be mandatory. We should be able to choose that we want therapy, and the reason why we want therapy, and the reason why we want hormones, and the reason why we want surgery, we know it inside. If you know that you're ready, you know that you're ready. You should be able to go and get it. Another form of gatekeeping, by the way, is money, because transition is really expensive. And another issue of gatekeeping is race and ethnicity. I can't not talk about it. Yes, I'm white, I'm privileged, I'm able to afford transitioning because I was able to put it on my credit card and raise money, but that's me, all right? There's also the issue of race and ethnicity within this community, and the gatekeeping that can also happen there within their families and within the medical providers and stuff like that, where it could even be worse than the things that I have experienced, and that is horrible, and it's something that is not talked about enough in this community. And as somebody who has, all this privilege, I want to make sure to talk about the voices that aren't heard enough in this community. So talking about race and ethnicities and different minorities in this community is super, super important. And I don't know the experience. I can't talk about this experience. I'm not every trans person. I am not black, obviously. I can't talk about the experiences of like a black trans man. I can't do that, but I can say that I have seen some really horrible things happen in this community regarding gatekeeping to people who are people of color in this community, and it's just the trans people of color. It's just sad, and it's just absolutely horrible, and something needs to be done, and we need to do something. And I mean, I did give the example of trans migrants in Quebec, and that is a huge issue of trans people of color being denied a service that everyone else gets access to. So that's a huge problem, and that needs to be talked about as well. Oh, and of course, you can't not talk about people who are not able-bodied. You can't, we have to talk about that, because it's a huge issue as well, and people aren't taken seriously, and it's just so sad. Especially with people with learning disabilities, there's a big stigma with, we don't believe you because you're not trans, you don't really know what's going on. Listen to people, man, they know what they're talking about. And yeah, there are some medical conditions that can happen where somebody's like, oh, I think I'm trans, and the next day they're not trans, and that can happen, yes. But if someone is so sure and they're telling you, I want to transition, listen to them. That's all that matters. That's all for this video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the videos in this series and playlist. If you have any questions, any suggestions on other types of Trans 101 videos I can make, please let me know. I look forward to hearing from you, and yeah, let's talk about all the things that I talked about in this video in the description. Super important to talk about, especially this. Have a great day, have a great week, and thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day. Again, I love you. Okay, whatever, bye.